Hello everyone. Nice to have you here, and thank you for joining. Even though we know it's a bit early for a lot of you, so thank you very much for joining. And please welcome with me Rania, Dr. Rania, who was with us in level 1 to introduce us to open access and open repositories. And we're so happy that she's also with us at this level, also delivering open access and open repositories. And yeah, so let's start. The floor is yours now, Rania. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much indeed for presenting me. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So hello everyone, and sorry for the early start today, but as I mentioned earlier, I have lots of responsibilities and children, and I need to do it early, or otherwise I may not be able to do it. So yeah, as Dr. Lamis has mentioned, I'm Rania Baleela. I'll take you through this level of training. And this is the beginning of it, just the refresher. So this is a video produced by the Open Network. And as you can see there, its access is an open access or a Creative Commons access. And to just like refresh your minds about open access again, it's the practice of providing free and unrestricted online access to the products of research. And it has, there are 10 reasons for doing this. One of them is you provide a good information supply to others in a European context and in other countries' context. You're using the taxpayer money, and this is fair and transparent use of it. You're providing free and fast access to scholarly information, and new methods and new knowledge is shareable very fast between the communities, as well as providing high visibility to the researcher who publishes openly, and the institution that publishes openly, and things like that. The research funders and institutions have their own policies, and they would know how the money was spent, and this is very important for them to continue funding, for example. So when you publish OA, you're actually putting the output in their hands and showing them or showcasing what you have been doing. And again, collaboration and networking, and this is crucial, as you know. I have my personal experiences regarding this. For example, I've been approached by people from other universities to collaborate with them in projects because they have found my intellectual output out there, published online openly. So this made them see who am I, and they wanted to collaborate with me. And this can be applied at a higher level. This can be applied on institutional levels, governmental levels, etc. Again, when you publish openly, your license is yours. You can license the work the way you see fit. You will be visible, as I mentioned. There is a good findability, long-term access. The production will not die because, as we said earlier, in the previous level, that whatever is not online can be identified as dead. In addition to that, even when putting things online without licensing and without the DOI and other useful things that we can apply, or techniques or things, then you have actually killed the document. So you need it to be findable even after 10, 100 years online. In addition to that, open access helps you conduct efficient research and innovation. And in this aspect, I just remember and something that happened at my institution. About 10 or 15 years ago, there were two teams working in the same faculty, conducting the same research, answering the same questions, sending the similar samples to a laboratory in Germany, I think, to do sequencing for them. And the laboratory recognized this and came back to those people saying, okay, you're paying double to do the same thing from the same institutional money. So we recommend that you join efforts. And just think about it. If the institution has an open access repository at that time, say for example, and the outputs are shared in that IR, then these two groups would have never conducted the same research at the same time, and would have never wasted time and resources answering the same question. So this is one example of the usefulness of having or being committed to open access. So basically, what you gain at a personal level and at an institutional level, if you go OA. You gain higher visibility, and this helps again in ranking, for example. So when you are an author at a personal level, you have all your publications online, your visibility is higher, your impact is higher, your H index might get better. At an institutional level, when all the intellectual output is actually published openly online, in certain ranking techniques or methods such as webometrics, you will get a higher rank in two parameters, in the visibility parameter and in the openness parameter as well. So this helps the improvement of the rank of the institution itself. And this will definitely affect your impact. At an institutional level, institutions that have open access policies, open access publications and things like that, they have a higher impact. And look at the African context. I will take you through an analysis later on, maybe today or in the next session, that I've conducted based on data available online about different institutional repositories in the African continent and globally. So if you look at the universities that have the highest ranking among others, you will find one of the factors is actually they are open access players, and they have high impact of their research. Another basic gain for the authorities and for the institution itself is an informed decision, because you have the literature in front of you. You have what's happening at the grassroots of research in front of you. And then as an authority, you can decide on strategies and policies, and this will be an informed decision. It won't be like, I would love to do this, you know? So this is These are the basic 3 gains if you adopt open access. Am I clear? Can you hear me okay? Any comments so far?
Yeah, we hear you perfectly, Rania. It's great. Thank you.
I'll continue then. But an important part of adopting open access, it's not like just I want to adopt open access, you know. You need to have a policy. You need to have a mandate there. And this is crucial because with the help of dedicated policies as an institution, you can comment your position in the current transformation of science communication, because as you know, open science and open access are among it's actually a human right, okay, to know, to be informed. This is a human right, and it's there in the UN Declaration of Human Rights. Having a policy means that the institution is committed to open access to the movement, is supporting the movement itself. And, sorry, there should be very clear objectives set for the policies. So every single institution can create their own open access policies in a modular way that fits them or their needs. The objectives, the general objectives are, first of all, to position the institution in the discourse on open access. And the second thing is to encourage members to publish openly or to deposit their publications in an open access institutional repository. And I will take you through that again in the next session. And the third objective, general objective, is to support the movement itself. In drafting or making any policy, there are 5 stages proposed by Wilt and Ramesh in 2009. And these are, first of all, let's set the agenda. And the second one is to formulate the policy. The third one is the decision making. And the fourth one is to implement the policy itself, and then later on evaluate what's happening. And this is an ongoing process. So you need to evaluate, re-edit or edit the policy if needed a couple of years later on or a decade later on or whatever, and then re-implement and then evaluate. So this is a living process, or this is a live process. But if you look at open access policies, you need only 4 steps to create a policy. And this is theoretical, because when you start doing this, you will find different things might happen, like different challenges, different obstacles, different mindsets. It depends on the institution itself. It depends on who is doing what exactly. It depends on the strategy of the institution, the mission of the institution. Is there support from the higher levels, the hierarchical levels, or not? Is there support from the government as well? Because open access is not like something that you take as an individual. You cannot do it as an individual. You need to, first of all, you can like rally for open access as individuals at your institutions, but then you need higher hierarchies to adopt the idea or the movement, and then things should go upwards as well. And in creating an open access policy, it can go both ways. So you can start at the top levels down to grassroots, or you can start from the grassroots up to the high level. But then at the end of it, you will have you need to have a commitment and collaboration between all people, you got me. So the steps to create an open access policy, as I said, it depends on the situation. It depends on the institution itself. But first of all, you need to identify the problem. Whenever you're setting or creating a policy, you're actually trying to solve a problem. So is there a need to create an open access policy? Are there problems, conflicts, current development in the institutional environment? You need to analyze the context factors to be able to set an agenda. So the first step is identify the problem. And I'm quite sure that the problem within an African context is that in the majority of our countries, we don't have an open access policy. So we need to create one. And a very useful document that you can use to do so is a publication by the UNESCO in 2012. It sets very clearly the components of the policy and how you can proceed further. An important thing from a personal experience, because I have been member of the committees that drafted the open access policy in Sudan. I have been a member of my institution, higher committee, University of Khartoum, and then I have been a member at the Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research as well, because they wanted to adopt open access policies for the whole country. This happened before the revolution of 2018, 2019, and then everything halted for a while. But an important thing is to consider who are the people who have the knowledge to formulate this policy. In my experience, we had members from the Faculty of Law, specifically specialized in intellectual property, because we wanted to set segments or sections on intellectual property and to accommodate the Sudanese national laws there within the policy. So we didn't want to bring something that is more of a European nature or American, United States America, of American nature. We wanted something that suits us as Sudanese and that suits our laws as well. So what we have been doing is we identified the problem that we wanted to be part of the movement at the University of Khartoum, because this was the first step. And we created a committee. The committee was composed of Faculty of Law members, people from the information technology and networks administration, because these are the people who will provide the technical support. We had people from the higher deanships, at the university, representatives, and we got policies samples from the region and from at the international level. We studied every single policy very carefully, in addition to having the backbone created by the UNESCO in 2012. And we created our own open access policy that suits the Sudanese context. So this was the process that we had. It took very long time. It took backwards and forwards communication between members. People agrees on things, people disagrees on things. We wrote it in English, translated into Arabic, retranslated it into English again. So we have 2 copies in English and in Arabic as well. So yeah, it was a very long process. Problem identification is the first one. The second step is to set the agenda. You need support from executives. You cannot do such huge work or that consumes huge amount of time without the support from the higher administrative level. So the committee that I'm talking about was actually created by the vice chancellor at that time at the university. And when we moved up to the ministerial level, the committee was created by an office that is responsible for every online aspect of every single university in Sudan. So you need the commitment and the support. You need coordination. You need a body. That committee was a body. We were the working group in that committee. You need an informed, relevant group. You cannot bring someone who doesn't know what open access is or what are the laws in the country to be part of that committee. You need people who knows what they are doing exactly. You need to present arguments for policymaking processes. You need to the entire process, again, to be highly transparent, because this is about open access. One of the main issues, or the main pillars, not issues, of open access are transparency, you know? So this should be transparently outlined. The third thing that you need to do is to formulate the document itself, and then to decide. And as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, the policy document is created, reviewed multiple times. We translated it, we reviewed it, we changed a lot in it. It took us more than a year to formulate the final one for our institution to adopt it. We had to have inputs from the institution, bodies, from stakeholders, and we had to have members, as I mentioned, from with different backgrounds and specialities. Every single change that happens during the process is either accepted or justified if rejected. So if I say I don't want this point in this policy, I need to justify why, as a member or as a committee or at different levels, whatever level you're talking about. The final version should be processed through appropriate bodies. Say, for example, in universities, these bodies can be the Senate committee, for example, at a Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research. It could be a committee that function in this area, okay? And then afterwards, the policy should be officially adopted, signed, and made available for every member of the staff or institution in the country. Afterwards, or the fourth step, is the communication and evaluation. And this is a continuous process. Like, okay, we think this policy should be amended in that part because it doesn't fit our institution. If the policy was created by a ministry, for example, or a high level, and was sent down to lower levels like institutions or universities, then we need to communicate with each other. We need to evaluate the policy and things like that, etc. Am I clear so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay. An important note, a postscript. My presentation about the policy-making process is a linear one, and this differs significantly from the discontinuous and conflict-ridden real-world academic processes, as you know. And I have just mentioned how we have taken very long time to produce the policy draft at the University of Khartoum, although the committee was a homogeneous one. Every single one of us knows the importance of open access. Every single one of us wanted a policy at the institution level. But it took very long because people wanted to like revise this part, change this one. The law people, legislation people adds their jargon. As a STEM person, I didn't understand what this means. They need to like inform me about it and things like that. However, it can still be useful for planning purposes. So just take it as a planner for you and bear in mind that this is not a continuous linear way of processing how to develop a policy for open access at your institution. You need to be very open-minded about that. You need to know that this will take very long time. It might take very long time in certain settings. It might not take long time in other settings. So it depends. It really depends on the setting at the institution itself. So what is the structure of a policy? We need to know this to move on. So the structure of the policy, at the beginning, you need a header, and then a preamble, self-description, definition, references, explanations, declarations of intent, recommendation for action, reservations, technical services, advisory services, and conclusion. And I will take you through this. Let's go here. This is a nice website that will help you a lot to like formulate your open access policy if you need to. You will find here definitions for each of those words I've used earlier. Like, for example, a header. A header is a seal of the institution. You will find the title of the document, if applicable, reference to the corresponding resolution in the official versions. When you look at the preamble, and this is a law people jargon, it means introduction in simple words. This explains the societal, political, or scientific context of the open access policy and refer to the self-image of the institution, and you will find example of wording. So if you're a member of the open access policy drafting committee at your institution, you can use this website, for example, to help you draft the policy itself. And you will need later on to like check with the UNESCO backbone I've already talked about, and I will give you the document later on in the documentation. And you can adapt the policy to your institutional or your country needs afterwards or during the process. So an example of wording a preamble is innovation is impossible unless researchers are able to share new knowledge as soon as it has been established. In its capacity as a publicly funded organization, the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft has a duty to inform the general public about its research activities. At the same time, industrial partners have a need for information that will allow them to find appropriate partners for their projects. Consequently, the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft pursues a publishing policy based on unrestricted access to information as defined in the 2003 Berlin Declaration on Open Access to Knowledge in the Sciences and Humanities. Okay, so this is part of this institution preamble. So this is how you can like have word it. Okay, It can be different, definitely. You can use different wording here, but this is just an example. Moving on to the third definition, the self-description part. You either put a self-description within the preamble, the previous section, or you have a subheading with this. And this means basically what is the mission of the institution. So it characterizes the institution from which the consonants of its goals and function with an open access culture is derived. The mission statement of the institution possibly contains statements from which wording can be taken. And here you can find an example for this, like the University of Regensburg stands, among other things, for the exchange of knowledge and culture between the cultural regions of Eastern and Western Europe and North America, for dialogue with society, for a cosmopolitan university culture, and for long-term international relations in research, teaching, and study. This is the mission statement of this university, and they have just added as the description or self-description part in the policy. So, sorry for that. I just wanted to admit one of the attendees. And the fourth section contains the definitions. And in every single legal document, you will have definitions. These are like brief overviews of the context, like saying open access stands for this and that, this support scholars in this and that, and things like that. So you need to add definitions, or saying when we say the university, we mean the University of Rwanda, for example, or the University of Khartoum, or Cairo, or whatever university. When we say open access within this context, it means this and that. When you say, you just define the terms you're using within the policy. Or you mentioned when the committee is mentioned, we mean the higher committee of such and such. So you need just to define the words that will appear a lot in your document. And then you need to have references to previous declarations, initiatives, commonalities, and if applicable, obligations of the institution that results in reform. For example, in the Leibniz University, Hanover, their reference was like this. Leibniz University, Hanover supports the scientific and political request for open access to knowledge in the science and humanities, as determined in the Berlin Declaration issued October 2003 and the Berlin III Open Access Recommendation confirmed March 2005 in Southampton, UK. So you need to sometimes you need to reference your to add references to previous declarations. In some policies, you will have a rationale for support of open access. And it's formulated as something like this. In views of its responsibility for comprehensive access to academic knowledge, Heidelberg University is pressing ahead to expand open access. This could be the rationale for certain universities or institutions. And the bulk of the work is here at the declarations of intent. You mentioned the goals in the area of open access. The goals may include the provision of a suitable organizational, financial, technical infrastructure for open access publishing. It may include achievement of a certain percentage of open access publications. Goal, say by year 2060, we want to have published this amount of open access documents or whatever. And the wording can be something around this, like when assessing scholarly performance, the University of Kassel will treat peer review contributions equally irrespective of whether the contributions are fee-based or open access. Here, this university had made both types of publishing equal. And you go further on, adding details about it. Here are different examples from different universities that you can use. In addition, you can add a section on recommendations or action, requests or mandates for publishing authors. And the level of wording may vary here. There are a range of recommendations for action, and options may include, among others, research and teaching in accordance with the aims of open access, open science, open education, or OER, the publication of research results and scholarly publications in open access format. Self-archiving can be part of it. Publication under open access licenses, such as Creative Commons, that we have been through in level 1. Inclusion of publication costs. Who should apply the APCs, the article processing charges? Are there third-party funders? Like, we're obtaining a grant from the Wellcome Trust. They have their own open access policy. Every single grant from the Wellcome Trust publications produced using that grant should be available openly to all. And thus, the Wellcome Trust will pay the APCs. In other contexts, you may be doing some research work and you don't have funding. So who pays what? Will the institution pay? Will you pay it from your own pocket? So there should be some information about these things, and the rights of exploitation, the avoidance of granting publishers an exclusive right of use. In the classical pathway of publishing, you grant the publisher all the copyrights and all the intellectual property rights. And you're just like someone who has been enslaved doing the work. First of all, writing the proposals, getting the grants, doing the research itself in the lab or in the library or in the field, writing the manuscript, communicating with the publisher, doing the editing and proofing, submitting everything, and then they will tell you, okay, thank you very much. We will take it without making you paying money, but we will get the revenue. We will sell it and get the revenue. Okay, so this is what happens classically. You need to avoid granting publishers an exclusive right of use. It also sets the involvement as a reviewer and editor in peer reviewing. For example, currently, if you review for a journal, you get credited, not in money, but in your account at Publon, for example, or in the different types of networks, you will be credited that this person have conducted the review, open review, for this piece of work, and their comments were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is a good thing, I think. People knows that you have reviewed for this journal, and others might communicate with you or contact you. For managers, recommendation to staff that they explore the possibility of publishing research results in peer-reviewed per open access formats. This is also can be shno. Sorry, shno is what in Arabic, in our Arabic. This can be a recommendation for action as well. And these are different examples that you can go through. There are 9 different examples here, like in order to anchor openness in teaching and research. Lastingly, at TUHH, we recommend this and that. Okay, at Hamburg University, for example, you can see another example here from Humboldt University, a third example from Ruhr University. You can see a fourth example from the TU. Another example from different BMBF, different institutions. So you can go through wordings by different institutions and to have a taste of it, of how you can add or you can write recommendations. Okay, so the proviso is recommendations for action that may be made subject to that recommendation of actions may be subject to proviso, and this is this justification site may include freedom of science or discipline-specific publishing cultures, and you can find here an example of a proviso. Like with due rigor to the constitutionally protected freedom of research and teaching, and the freedom to choose the publication medium and venue that results therefrom, and taking into account the different statutes of open access, and etc., etc. So you have this section added to a policy. Some of the final sections contain technical services because open access depends largely on IT infrastructure as well. So you need to mention technical infrastructures, servers, inter-allied repositories, open access repositories for publication, code systems for publication of and data management, metadata services available, controlling instruments, research information systems, open journal platforms, like say, for example, if you're using an open journal system at the PKP or another platform, research data management systems, etc. An example of wording will be something like this. The university supports the findability and dissemination and thus the visibility of scholarly texts through the following measures: download option and statistics on the university's research portal, download option on the institutional web pages via pure plugins, provision of bibliographic data for literature, search engines and catalogs, publication of thesis, dissertation, and habilitation thesis. Another part of the final section of a policy should be about the advisory services. You need to mention publishing advisory services for scholars and scientists, journal editors, for publishers, as well as other services to support OA publishing offered by the institution. And you can find some wording here, like information events, workshops, tutorials, and individual consultations on open access are conducted regularly by the open access team. You could have a team at the university in addition to an officer, and I will take you through that later on in this presentation. And the final clause can be something like this, like if individual provisions of this policy should be invalid or unfeasible after the policy comes into effect, the finality of the policy will be unaffected in all other respects. And that's why you need people from the law department at the university, because they know how to write these types of segments. And you can write afterwards the date, signatories, references, and you can have a footer as well in this, yeah, in this document. So this is basically what you need to have in the structure and the content of a policy, an open access policy. But the central elements of an open access policy are 5. Okay, so all the sections I've been talking about are not all of them are mandatory. 5 only of these ones are central and mandatory if you're writing an open access policy. And these are the preamble or the introduction, the self-description, the declarations of intent and rationale, the recommendations for action, and the references to technical and advisory services. These are the 5 main central elements of an open access policy. The others depends on the needs of the institution itself. So if you need them, add them. If you don't, you may not add them. And there is a crucial role of libraries and librarians. And this is a very important part. From my personal view, I don't know about the case in other African countries. I just know about the case in South Africa, maybe, and Kenya to some extent. In these countries, in South Africa and in Kenya, librarians are the driving roles. They are the driving force behind open access, specifically in South Africa. And they are highly developed, they are highly committed to open access. In my situation, focusing on my country, Sudan, there is a problem here because we have traditional librarians, we do not have cybrarians, and traditional librarians focuses only on the printed acquisitions and provisions, and sometimes they don't know how to use a computer at all. So in my situation, one of the first trainings I have conducted was to train librarians, among others, on how to use a computer at the beginning. And then we moved on to another step of talking about open access and then how to improve things. And then we built the institutional repository. In my case, it wasn't a classical way of doing things because the people who were involved in building the IR and developing it were actually myself and people from the IT department at my university. And these people were actually basically engineers. So electrical engineers. I'm talking here specifically about Dr. Iman Abul Maali, about the team members were all computer sciences and IT, have all these backgrounds. So science, biology, electrical engineering, IT, computer sciences. This is not the classical way of doing it, and this is not the right way of doing it. Librarians should be the leaders in any open access initiative because they need to manage the acquisition and provisions, either printed or electronically. Both of them are their responsibility. The libraries should operate thesis servers. And this, again, was not the case in my university, in my institution, because people who were responsible for operating these servers and for uploading the documents and for managing the repository, we had different phases. At the beginning, it was my team. We were 3 people in that team, scanning, uploading, and everything at the Faculty of Science. The second level was when the university adopted the repository, and it became the responsibility of the scientific affairs deanship. And again, this is not the right pathway. And afterwards, the digital content department was founded in the Information Technology and Networks Administration at the university, and I was the department founder there, or the first head for the newly founded department. And again, the responsibility was mine as a biologist, and my team was composed of 16 IT personnel or personnel with IT backgrounds and the single librarian. And this is again not the typical standard way of doing things. In 2022, I think, the librarians started working on the IR in the University of Khartoum, or at the University of Khartoum. Historically, the IR was founded in 2012. It took them 11 years to get involved or to get on board. And that's not the right way of doing it. They should be the people responsible for operating the CSS servers, founding and managing the repositories, and supporting the establishment of open access journals. And even the journals, in my case, again, the hub was created by myself. Every single journal at the University of Khartoum at that time was scanned, every single issue, and uploaded into that hub. And again, this is not, shouldn't be my responsibility. This should have been done by librarians. But the training of the librarians at that time at my institution was lacking, and they couldn't do it. They cannot do it. So I'm talking about these very frankly because I want you to avoid the mistakes or the mishaps that happen there. You need librarians on board right from the beginning. If they don't have the required training, train them. If they are computer illiterate, train them, make them proficient enough. Or you can set a plan that your library training or departments that are graduates should get trained right from their undergrad classes. So you may be looking into policies regarding curricula as well at such departments. The librarians should typically manage every open access publication funds, and this doesn't happen a lot in the African continent. I'm quite sure of that. Libraries should drive awareness and transition to open access. And maybe here I have a question for you. Do we have librarians among us today?
Yeah, I think we have many librarians, and
Yes, I am a
surprisingly, yeah,
librarian.
I'm
I
glad,
am a
Wallahi.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad to hear this. Because librarians they are crucial to the open access movement. And they need to contact and to maintain close contact with departments to understand their needs. And the libraries should be or are familiar with discipline-specific open access offerings and requirements. So for a successful implementation of open access, you need cooperation between libraries, researchers, data centers, and management as well. All should be working homogeneously and harmonically, in harmony. Another thing that I want you to think about and to have at your institutions, if you don't have them yet, are open access officers. These people are the linkers between the departments and the researchers and the librarians and the higher administration. In addition to being the linkers between the institution and other players, like stakeholders or whatever, just think about it. And they should have the knowledge to provide advices, to play an advisory role as well. These people should know and should comprehend trends and scholarly publishing behavior across disciplinary boundaries, if you get what I mean. So you need to be, if they are librarians, they need to know about trends in biology, in ecology, in genetics, in engineering, in mathematics disciplines, in humanities as well. These people should have extremely good backgrounds in other disciplines, and to understand at the same time what open access implies policies of open access, they are crucial. That's it. They are crucial for everything. And my last message for today is that commitment alone is not enough. You need to engage people. You need to join efforts. You need to unite as an institution and at the country level. You need to involve every single person at the institution. You need to make it very clear in concrete terms what this commitment to open access means. You need to discuss open access at all levels, at departmental levels, institutional levels, and at working groups levels, at higher administration levels, to your students as well, everywhere. And when you market open access, say, for example, you have an open access week. This is a marketing event, global one, and known in October, takes place in October. Transfer information broadly and at all levels. Start with your students at the preliminary year, for example, in every single department, up to the highest level. And I will stop here, continue next session, inshallah. If you have any questions, comments, I'm open to hear them.
As usual, Rania, like it's amazing. You think that you know a lot about open access, but when we see your sessions, we actually like find out that we don't know a lot. So thank you so much. I'm sure that the time is up, but do you have a few minutes for some questions?
Yes, please, go ahead.
There were many questions in the chat. I'll try to read them quickly. So Paul has asked that, is there a way we could advocate for open access policy in African institution? How do we strategize to have it? I think you probably like you've answered that during the session, but I don't know if you want to add anything else.
Right. I'm searching for the question.
Oh, it's let me repaste it. It's here. Do you see it, Rania?
Not yet. I'm still looking.
In the chat, I've pasted it. The last question.
Okay, because I'm looking at the.
No.
Is there a way we could advocate for open access policy in African institutions? Yes. Strategize to do that. My own opinion is talk to people. In my context, I find this the most effective way of doing things. Like start the chat with your colleagues and start talking to everyone in like a model. When you throw a stone into water, you will have a ripple effect. And this is what I call it, the ripple effect model. Like talk to your colleagues about we need an open access policies because we need to protect our intellectual output. We need policy at an institutional level to do so. And when they agree with you or parallelly try to reach the higher level executives like your vice chancellor, your deputy vice chancellor, talk to them about open access, the benefits for the institution, because we look at what am I going to get out of this normally. The mentality is different. The mentality set, the regular one is what is the benefit for us as an institution. Another mentality is I'm giving information to others. This is my mentality, my personal mentality. Like when I put my publication online, because I work in public health and my research actually affects people on the ground. So I want the medics or the physicians in very far away areas in my country to have access to my results or findings that may help save a life for free online. So for me, it's a giving thing. For others, it's like, what am I gonna get from that? So know the setting or the mindset of your institution and go for it. If it's a giving nature, then tell them we want to put our output there for people to make use of it. If the nature is a combined one, like, okay, we will put this online for others to make use of it, but we will gain this and that, like better visibility, better impact, and better informed decisions. Authorities might come to our documents and say, we use this document to build this and that policy. So you need to start by doing this. My personal experience again, when I started rallying for open access and advocating for it in Sudan in 2012, nobody knows at that time what open access is. People were actually putting obstacle after an obstacle in front of me. I was alone, literally alone. I was doing this alone. I will write letters. I will go to Vice Chancellor office, submit my letters, wait for responses, talk to people, getting laughed at because we are in Africa. We don't need open access. But you are in Africa, you need it because you need access to literature that is not free for you to access. So this was my point of view. This was what I was doing. It depends on every single situation. I'm taking you through my own experience within the Sudanese context, and things changed a lot when we started that institutional repository at the University of Khartoum at the Faculty of Science. The rank of the university get better that year, and the head of the Information Technology and Networks Administration mentioned at the Senate meeting of the university that the rank has improved because of two actions. One of them was at the Faculty of Science by a single researcher uploading documents online, and this had improved our visibility and our rank at the university. And at that time, I started to get attention, you know? So when I was doing the work alone, I was being regarded as, what is she doing? But when the institution got better rank, people realized the effect. So you might have a different strategy. You might start, it depends. It really depends. Did I answer that in a good way? I'm just.
Yeah, I think perfectly. Yeah. Uh, Someone unmuted. I'm not sure, but like for me, it's a perfect answer because I think what mostly when we're engaging with stakeholders, they need to know what's in it for them.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
even though that this is not the essence of open
Yeah,
science, is that the essence is giving, but then
yeah.
you have to like go with the flow and see what would make them agree. And I think also it's important to tell them that this is a global trend, you know,
Yeah,
and we need to catch up. Otherwise, we will be left behind. And maybe
exactly.
like put examples for those big universities like Harvard, Cambridge, you know, all of them have these policies. So it would be great, you know, for us to also like formulate such policies. Yeah, indeed.
In addition, you can add something like, okay, we have missed the Industrial Revolution, the first one, the second one, and the third one, and the fourth one is is conducted now. So let's be
Yeah.
part of it, okay?
Yes, yes, yes,
Because this
exactly.
is the essence of the fourth evolution, and
Exactly.
Africa can take a great part in that. We can be the leaders.
Yeah, I think we are in many ways leading it,
Yeah.
to be honest. There is another question also by Paul. I don't know if you have the time, Rania, to answer it.
Go ahead, please.
So I also pasted it in the chat. Yeah. So he say, is it not advisable to have a comprehensive open access policy instead of limiting it to the 5 central elements of open access policy?
This is not what I'm saying, actually. I'm saying if you have the time and effort and you can and the money, I mean the funding and everything to do a comprehensive open access policy, just go for it. Otherwise, within a lower, funding settings, within knowledge gaps, maybe within having less or a little number of people specialized, specialized people or who knows what they are doing exactly, you might go for the 5 main central elements policy. And then later on, you have a window for improving and evaluating after implementation. Because all the time, it's a living thing. This policy is not, it cannot be regarded as a religion or something like that. It's a living organism. So you can go back and evaluate and re-implement after adding other sections maybe. So, and it really depends on your institution environment. You can go for the 5 only pillars policy, or you can expand to have all the comprehensive components.
Yeah, I think it's like the 5 pillars are like a stepping stone, you know. It's the it could be like, just as you said, with the limited resources and knowledge that we have, it could be just the start, and then like these policies have to be revised like on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And then you could add more things to it, definitely. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So again, an amazing session. They're asking for the links. I think it's in the presentation, right, Rania?
Yeah, and I will add more documents as well, like links to the UNESCO policy if you wish to use it as a backbone.
Yeah.
I will add all relevant links in the documents I will send you later on.
That is amazing. That is amazing. So again, thank you very much, Rania. And
You're
we're
welcome.
very excited and looking forward to the next session on Thursday. And we see what else we have to learn about open access.
Inshallah. Okay. Thank you very much for
Inshallah.
having me.
Thank
And
you.
sorry, it was a bit, tough, this one, because it's policies, but we need to do it.
Yeah, it is. It is very important. It is very important. Thank you. Thank you very much,
Thanks very
Rania.
much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Au revoir.
Bye. Thank you very much, everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye.